Welcome back to On the Verge. I'm your host, Rachel Lohorn. Tonight's guest is Bryce Miller from IFC. How are you doing, Bryce?
Not too bad. A little tired, but we'll see.
That's okay. So tell me a little bit about IFC and what they stand for.
All right, so the Interfraternity Council is actually in charge of the 6 fraternities that we have on campus. 3 of those are actually a part of the national organization which governs IFC. It's called the North American Interfraternity Conference, and then 3 of those are not actually a part of it nationally.
So tell me how you got started with IFC.
All right. So freshman year, fall 2016, I went to a few of the information sessions, and I just wanted a group of guys that I could hang out with, and I definitely found that with my fraternity, and it's been an incredible time so far.
What is your favorite part about IFC?
So definitely working with so many different organizations and the people within those organizations. Each one of us joined our organizations for a different reason, but being able to work with everyone and having a common goal, which is the betterment of Greek life as well as just students on this campus, that's really a common ground that we all have, and it is amazing to work with everyone with
So
that.
how can male students be a part of IFC?
So in the spring semester we have informal recruitment, which is anywhere from January through February, even March. Each fraternity has the option to host events if they'd like to. They can range from volleyball, basketball, any sporting events, or Sky Zone, having dinner, or so on. And then fraternities will extend a bid out to a member. But then in the fall semester, we have formal recruitment, which is the weeks leading up to bid day. Right at the beginning of the semester, we have events that we host that are called information sessions that really gets the ball rolling for fraternities to be able to do recruitments and host events and stuff. And then at bid day, members are extended bids if chapters so choose.
Is there any events that are going on like the rest of the semester?
So we actually are right in the beginning of Greek Week, which is this week. So you'll be seeing a lot of different events on campus. There will be a chalk mural happening tomorrow, as well as if you'd like to pie any of the IFC or Panhellenic Executive Board, that will be on Wednesday. So if you'd like to pie me, like to pay $1, you are more than welcome to. I'll be there. As well as Greek Olympics on Saturday. We also have dance comp on Friday. It's an incredible event where 10 fraternities and sororities are putting together dance routines, and it's a lot of fun. Very exciting.
So how can we follow up with you guys on social media in general?
So we have an Instagram as well as a Twitter. The Twitter I know is IFC at USI, and the Instagram, I cannot remember the name, but we do have an Instagram. So
That is awesome. Thank you for coming on the show today.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Keep watching for a second interview with Kaysia and Joe. Welcome back to On the Verge. We are at our second interview today with Kaysia and Joe. How are you guys doing?
We're wonderful, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your background, how you guys met, and how long you guys have been together.
Yeah, so Joe and I, actually a little bit about our background. Joe and I grew up very differently. So I actually was adopted from California, was born into a really broken home, and was raised just kind of going to church here and there. But then Joe was raised very differently. I'll let you share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in a Catholic home, very moralistic, go to church every weekend, and just try to do your best throughout the week. And a lot of times just kind of hiding how you actually feel, making people think that you're different than what you actually are. And yet at the same time, really just kind of hurt inside. And so I think what she's getting to is that we were both kind of looking for that difference in our life, something to really fill the void. And so then that's when the next step in life came.
Yeah, so the reason why that's relevant is because Joe and I's story really starts in the summer of 2017, and that is when we both went on something called the Orlando Project. And so it's something that Campus Outreach, which is a Christian ministry on campus, puts on. It's a 10-week summer program just to grow in your faith, and it's really where Joe and I both learned what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be saved, and it's where we found just true joy, honestly. And so we both went the summer of 2017, and then I got asked to go back as a leader the summer of 2018. And when I was raising money to go back to the Orlando Project, I was having a conversation with my aunt and just telling her how excited I was to go back. And she brought up that a guy from her church went on an Orlando Project, and she was talking about Joe. And so she was asking me if I remembered him at all. And after seeing a picture of him, I did remember him. I thought he was super cute the first summer, but as he'll mention, he had no recollection of meeting me. But that's so relevant to our story, and I think really plays out well to how we actually did end up meeting. So do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, so like she was saying, when she was support raising for that summer project, her aunt, that one that she was asking for support raising funds, went to the church that I went to, and so she had that same conversation with me and said, do you know this girl named Kaysia Rieberger? She is my niece, and she went to the summer project in 2017, and she's going back this year as a servant leader. And I said, gosh, well, I'm really not good with names, but do you have a picture of her? Maybe I'll know her from the picture. Still didn't know, and so I felt really bad. And so from there, I just did what any mature man would do. And so I went and stalked her on Facebook. And so I went to Facebook and I looked her up, and sure enough, still didn't know her from the pictures. But I said, this sounds like a different person than all the other girls that I've talked to or that anybody else has talked about. And I think I'm just going to start praying for our first conversation. And so after that whole summer, after her aunt had mentioned her, I had probably prayed for her over 100 times by the first time that we met when she went to that church. And when I walked in, I was like, wow, this does not seem like the first time I've met her. But for her, she had no idea what was about to happen.
Yeah, so that whole summer, I was just, I was leading a group of women and just teaching them how to study the Bible and just walking through life with them. And so I had no idea that he was praying for our conversation. I had no idea that he was anticipating just the time that we would meet. I really had no idea. Something that's kind of ironic. My dad, actually, my parents both met him before I did. And the night my dad met him, he sent me a text message that said, I know this is crazy, but I think I met my future son-in-law tonight. And I ignored the text message because I would never trust my dad to pick out a spouse for me. But look at that. He actually knew what he was talking about. So that was really neat. But then when I got back from the Orlando Project, I went to the church with my aunt. And when she picked me up for church, she nonchalantly mentioned, like, oh, yeah, Joe's going to be there. And I honestly thought, okay, I didn't really know why that mattered. But when he walked through the doors of the church, to me, it seemed like he kind of made a beeline and kind of introduced himself right away. Oh, you must be Kaysia, I'm Joe. And so that was kind of where our story started.
So tell me about the song that you wrote for her.
Definitely. Yeah, so again, pretty much everything that we just mentioned is really what lines up the song. And so again, just making really good choices left and right during finals week. It came up and I should be studying, but instead I decided to sit down and write a song for our proposal, because after we met I knew that this is someone I want to spend the rest of my life with, someone who loves God more than they love me. That's a foundation that you can't beat. So I decided to sit down and I just started where everything began. And in the summer of 2017, we both didn't know necessarily that we were there, and yet God was doing something in both of our lives that would start this foundation of joy for the rest of our lives together. And so the song really came really quickly. It was about 3 hours that it took to write the whole thing, and it was done, but it wasn't just done hastily. It was done with a lot of love, and God, I would say, wrote it himself like he always does.
So how did this proposal go with the song?
I'll let her describe that.
Yeah, so a little bit of background. For our first date, he took me to these railroad tracks in Terre Haute, and the best way I can describe it is that the railroad tracks kind of cut through the woods, and where they cut through, you can see the sun setting. And so he took me there at sunset, and he brought his guitar, and we played worship songs, and we sang together. And that's been something that we just really enjoy doing in our relationship, and just really enjoy music in general and singing together. And so he took me back there on the day that he proposed, and instead of singing together, he sat me down and sang the song that he had written for me, and it was really special.
So tell me about when you guys are getting married.
Yeah, so I'll take this part. We're getting married on May 11th of this year. We're just so eager to start our lives together, and so when we were choosing a date for the wedding, we were trying to figure out, like, okay, I graduate on April 27th, and he's still in school at that point, and so then I was like, when do you take your last final? He said, May 10th, and I said, great, we'll get married on the 11th. So that's how it was decided, actually. Yeah.
So where are you guys going to have the wedding?
It's going to be in Brazil, Indiana. It's right outside of Terre Haute, so really close where he goes to school and about a mile from my house that I grew up in.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of On the Verge. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell for our post notifications, and also follow us on Twitter. See you next week.